Hey guys, Freedom Voice here. I wanted to do a video on the case of Mica Miller, showing 3 reasons why I believe Mica Miller was gang stalked. Here you can see her best friend, see her with her best friend. And I want to show you sort of Google Earth view of the outside of the pawn shop. I want to do this video in 2 parts. The first part is going to be here at the pawn shop, showing how she came in and how people were following her, stalking her inside the pawn shop. Right now you're looking at the exterior, and she would drive in here and park her car. And here is actually surveillance video after she parked her car. It's in the top left corner. There you can see the black car with the yellow circle around it. You can also see her walking inside the pawn shop. And I'm doing this to kind of show sequence by sequence how I believe that she was in fact gang stalked. Now, as we go into the interior of the pawn shop, you can see the front door, the door is open there, and she walks in casually. And as she walks in, I want to show you another view behind the counter, what happened, where she went after she walked in the front door. Here you can see from behind the counter, she walked in. I'm slowing the video down here to show you that she knew exactly where she was going to go. She was going over to the gun case to actually look at the gun case, look at the guns in the gun case. Now, my premise is that someone told her to go in and buy this gun. They told her exactly what gun to buy. And so she went in, not really to shop, but to actually get a Sig 9, which is kind of like a Cadillac of 9mm, the 9mm platform. And you can see her over here at the gun case. Now, I want to kind of walk through, obviously we have no sound here, but I want to kind of walk through how I imagine things went down. So you can see the attendant showing her the gun that she asked for or inquired about. And then she probably asked to see it. Right now she's taking off her backpack because he's asking for her ID just to make sure that she's 21 years old and older. So she takes out her wallet there. She hands her ID to the attendant. He hands it back to her. And then he unlocks the gun case and he pulls the Sig 9 out. He takes the clip out. And then he engages the slide and then hands it to her. You can see her holding it. She engages the slide once or twice to make sure that, there's nothing in, making sure that the firing pin works. And I'm sure she knew exactly how to handle guns is the point I'm trying to make. I mean, she's not a novice at this. You can look at her and tell. Now, why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because I don't believe at all that she unalived herself. I believe that someone told her to meet them, whoever it was, whether it was someone else besides J.P. Miller or perhaps J.P. himself, I'm not sure. But someone told her to meet her after she purchased the gun at a certain location. And you'll see later on in the video that she actually kept looking at her watch as well. She seemed like she was on a schedule. So she hands the gun back to the attendant. The attendant then gets the cover, the case for the actual gun, and he'll come back here and frame in a minute. And you can see them over on the right side, the far right. And then he brings the gun over, and, again, she's not there to shop. She knows what she's buying, which is not really characteristic for ladies. And I don't say this in a derogatory way, but ladies are not one to just go, they kind of like to see all options. And again, I don't mean this in a derogatory way. I'm saying that a lot of times ladies, they like to see every option. She's not there to look at every option. She's there specifically for the Sig 9. I believe someone told her to get the Sig 9, that it was kind of like the Cadillac of guns. And so she went in to do that. Now, she's waiting on the attendant. He's going back to get the case and all the instructions for the actual firearm. And then he would bring it back up. In the meantime, you're going to see here in a minute, that's what's going to come in the top of the frame, up top of the top frame. You're going to see a guy walk in the pawn shop. And this would be what I would consider perp number one. And I believe 110% that this guy was stalking her. And I'll show you why here in a minute. As she walks over by the cash register, the next process is for her to fill out a background application. So she comes in, you can see, and I'm zooming it, slowing it up. She's handing her ID to the attendant. And as she hands her ID to the attendant, he then takes her ID and sets it on the counter. He takes the background application. He kind of goes over the parts that she would need to fill out. And this is all for a reason. I believe they have cameras on the ceiling that's recording her ID sitting on the counter as well as the application. And they're also recording her filling out the application. She's going through the legal way of purchasing a gun. Someone who would commit suicide, in my opinion, would not do this. They would not go through these preliminaries for purchasing a firearm only to go and shoot themselves. If they wanted to do that, they would simply get a burner gun off the dark web or something like that. But she's not only filling out a background application, but they're going to take her photo here in just a minute. All this is important for the purchase of this firearm. Now, this is unique to South Carolina. In places like California, where I live, you have to have sort of like an 18-day waiting period, and it's a longer process. Now, I'm zooming in. Now, notice the gentleman walking in at the top of the screen. This guy right here, suspect, definitely, in my opinion, strikes me as a perp. Notice how he's not really there to buy anything. He's just sort of window shopping. And he's not really looking for anything specific. He's just looking at everything that he can see. As I pan out and kind of show you, you can see his shoes at the top of the frame there, still in frame. And he's going to come back in. In the meantime, Mica is filling out the background application. And he comes back in frame here, hands in his pocket. He has on the black shirt, black pants with a red stripe. And you'll notice as I zoom in on him, he's just kind of looking at the bulletin board there, looking at pictures. This guy here is suspect, guys. It's as though he's not in here to buy anything. In my opinion, he's one of the stalkers, definitely. And I'm going to show you why in just a minute. We're going to follow him as he walks around the store. Again, he's looking at the bulletin board, just kind of reading information. You know, people that go in and look around, you know, they tend to have items that are priority that they want to look at. This guy goes over to the spy camera case. He's looking at the spy cameras. Then he goes over to what appears to be, not sure, maybe printers, look like printers for a computer. And he's just kind of looking at everything. In the meantime, you can see Mica Miller here filling out the application. But I want you to keep your eyes on what I consider perp number one. You can see him over on the far right. And he walks down aisle number 3. And just kind of browsing around, looking. And in the meantime, he comes back out from that aisle. He looks at, again, the case, I guess, with the printers there. Then he goes down the next aisle, and he's just kind of looking around. Now, we're going to see a lot of him. There's a lot of footage showing what he's doing. But I want to kind of go back and talk a little bit about Mica Miller and kind of the motive that I believe brought her to purchasing the firearm on April 27th. I believe that, again, someone told her what to buy, and they told her to meet them somewhere specific. So she's following instructions. She finished the background application, hands it back to the attendant, and she's waiting now for the attendant to enter all the information into the computer, where they would, in fact, check her background immediately. And once the background clears, they would give her the firearm. Now, again, as I mentioned, in states like California here where I live, there's an 18-day waiting period, so you can't just walk in and purchase a firearm and get it right over the counter, unlike South Carolina. Another thing I want you to notice to the right of Mica Miller, you see a monitor on the counter there. I want to just point out that monitor. That's not hers. That was there when she walked in. But this is going to become very important when I show proof that she's being stalked. And she knew it too. Remember the monitor on the counter, guys. Notice that it's there, and notice that she's not paying any attention to it. This is going to become important later on. Now, I want to call your attention back over to the right side of the screen. You're going to see in just a minute the perp come back in frame. And when he comes back in frame, you'll see that he is, in fact, still looking around the store. He's just kind of browsing, walking. I believe that she knew he was there. It's not like she was really worried about it or paranoid about him, but she did, in fact, notice him. Now, the attendant is filling out the application, going over information as it relates to purchasing a firearm. What I find interesting about the case also is that if you look at the police reports for this case, you'll notice that in the police reports, they did document the fact that the police confiscated, or I should say J.P. Miller had the police confiscate her guns. She had guns already, but they had been confiscated because of her quote unquote mental illness or mental, inducement to mental health hospital. Now, she needed to get another firearm, and that's why she's purchasing one today. So it all seems to be a setup to me. All right. Now, I want to call your attention back over to the right side of the screen. You'll see the perp come in view. He comes in frame. He's looking again at the spy camera case. Now, he looked at it already once. This is proof right here that he's not in to buy. He's not really in window shopping. He's just in killing time and then trying to get her attention, so to speak. He walks back over and then he comes behind. Now, perp number 2 just came in with the red shirt. Notice how she looks over her shoulder at him and she stares at him. Now, I'm going to show that again. Notice she looks at him and she stares at him for a while. Okay, and you'll notice how she's very, very kind of clued into or locked into the guy with the red shirt on, right? So as he goes over to the counter, you can see on her face, she appears to be troubled. And I believe that's for a case. Now you can see, that's for a reason rather. Now you can see perp number 1, he's just walking around behind her, Again, this is very characteristic of what I would consider stalking, gang stalking, whatever the case may be. She doesn't appear to be bothered by it. She's actually seemed to be trying to ignore it, just kind of occupying herself with whatever she can see. But notice how she looks over her shoulder right there. She seems to be looking over her shoulder at him. Now, I'm going to duplicate this and show this again. Notice again. Notice how she appears to be looking over her shoulder, kind of at the corner of her eyes. She notices that guy that walked in behind her. And she's kind of keeping her eye. I'm going to show you another view. This is another view of her noticing the guy looking behind her in the glass case, right? And then she looks away because the attendant called her attention. So when the attendant called for her attention, you'll notice that she looks up at the attendant. And it's going to happen right here. Now, she looks up at the attendant, and she's now back conscientious of what she's doing, the reason why she's there to purchase the firearm. So they're going over the application with her, getting her to sign it. And in the meantime, notice perp number 1, he's going to kind of walk out the store now. He's walking out the store, didn't purchase anything. He just walks out. And he goes outside. All right, I want to show you as he walks outside. You can see the outside exterior view. You see him walking out the door now. He's walking towards this white van. And You can see that he opens the passenger, or I should say the driver's side door, and gets in. He starts up the van and he pulls off. So this, to me, this guy here is suspect number one. Now, perp number two is still there. Now, I want you to notice the guy in the red shirt. If you notice the guy in the red shirt, he looks over at her. He's holding the baby. Remember now, when he first walked in, she looked over at him and she was locked in on him when he walked in. That tells me that she knew she was being stalked. She knew she was being followed. And if you'll notice the attendant there, he's going through the formalities of purchasing a firearm. He sets it on the back table there. And a lot of times they do this because there are cameras all over the pawn shop showing every action that takes place, not only from the attendant, but from the customers as well. So you notice that Mica Miller there is just kind of waiting for the process. I believe she's waiting for the background clearance. And then she's going to walk out with the firearm in her hand. Now, again, guys, I'm going to do two parts to this video. Right now, this is just the footage in the pawn shop. The next time when I do part two, I want to show footage of her at the gas station. Now, when I show the video and the footage at the gas station, you're going to clearly see that she's being stalked. She's being followed. And that's going to be in part two of this video. Now, I want to move to another segment here. As she's making the purchase now, she pulls out her credit card here, and they tell her to go over to the other cashier. Now, I'm showing you another angle here. She takes out her credit card to hand it to the attendant, and he says, go over to the other computer to make the transaction. So he takes her over to this other computer here, I guess, where they take the credit card transactions, and she uses a credit card to purchase the firearm. It should be noted that she had in her purse, according to police records, she had $500 cash in her purse. She had money. Now, I'm not sure. Again, I believe that someone told her to go in and buy this firearm. And I believe the same person told her to meet them somewhere, I don't know where, somewhere close to Lumberton Park, where she was found unalived. But everything in this video and everything that I've been looking at in regards to the Mica Miller case suggests to me that she was not interested in unaliving herself. She was very happy to live life, even though she was struggling with, abuse, emotional abuse with her husband, J.P. Miller. It seems to be very obvious to me that she did not want to unalive herself. So he's putting the firearm in the case. He closes the case here. The attendant closes the case there. You can see in the counter behind the cash register. He takes the paperwork together with the receipt because she's already made the purchase. And then obviously gets the ammunition as well as the firearm, hands it to her and says, congratulations. And she walks out with the firearm. It's as simple as that. But I wanted to show you this video to show you evidence that she's being stalked. She's being followed. Now I'm going to show you again exterior surveillance. You can see her walking out, and she's walking towards her car. The top of the screen there. And you can definitely see that she has that firearm in her hand. She gets into her car. and she backs out and she drives away. Now, again, my premise is that she was on a schedule. My premise is that, and this is alleged, everything that I'm saying in this video is alleged, but I believe she allegedly was scheduled to meet someone somewhere, and they told her, before you get here, purchase a firearm. And the reason being is because, again, as I mentioned earlier, police records had indicated that all of her firearms that she had in her, while she was married to J.P. Miller, had been confiscated because of the mental health, the mental health diagnoses that she had received. So I'm going to continue part 2 at a later date, and I want to show you that gas station footage, and you're going to clearly see, guys, that she was being stalked in part 2. Until next time, take care.